During the Black Death, our population was ravaged. In fact, we lost 200 million people. But through that process, we went from having a path-dependent aristocratic world to a situation of crisis. Crisis reshuffled the deck. It changed the levels of social status. It introduced a new level of mobility, and in the period of chaos that emerged, there was a recharting, an emergence of a middle class where people reshaped our world and where we had advances in science, technology, art, music, geography that would forever reshape the trajectory of human potential. Now, when we think about the time period of COVID-19, that's a difficult time period as well. It's not on the same scale as the bubonic plague, though it's still a terrible thing, but it has many similar lessons in that we were in a period of path dependency. Between 2010 and 2019, we experienced one of our recent history's longest bull markets. That led to the periods of the COVID-19 crisis, but leads into a period of chaos, recession perhaps, in a way where the deck gets reshuffled and we enter recharting. So let's talk about how that works and what these time periods have meant for us. First of all, let's talk about the path-dependent period of our last decade. If I was giving you this keynote a year ago, I would be talking about augmented reality, futurism, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, mind reading, the introduction of so many technologies that will reshape our lives, that the core conversation a year ago was on how humans' potential was going to evolve in a way that was very inspiring to you. But the issues we ran into in that period of path dependency is that when times are going well, companies also start sticking to rules, policies, procedures, structures, compliance, brand standards, and we actually get stuck in a path. The problems I've worked on with several hundred clients are typically that new ideas are tough because we're not big enough, we're not small enough to be nimble. This isn't related to us. We can't do that. We need focus. We need to hit goals. We want results. Probably a couple of those statements resound with you. They probably make you feel what it's like to want to be the champion, pushing for new levels and new opportunities, but yet feeling constrained by needing to get buy-in, by the consistent need to produce next quarter's results. What happened in these time periods that are good is that success causes us to become path dependent, and path dependency prevents us from seeing what opportunity is so close within our grasp. Now, if I was to show you this slide that we kicked things off with a year ago, you'd probably be very inspired and our whole conversation would focus on this. But realistically, when we get into periods of crisis, chaos, recession, what happens is this concept of opportunity almost seems distant. It seems like a conversation we can't have right now. And yet, it is the conversation we must specifically have right now. Because crisis takes us into a completely new period. Now, I want to also note that crisis is not good for any of us on a certain level. There's an enormous toll to something like COVID-19, a human toll. It's impacted all of us in so many ways. So this is not the point of the takeaway, but it's to differentiate crisis from chaos and to realize what crisis enables. Crisis is really only good for mask makers, gun dealers, and stockpilers of sanitizer. But during a crisis, the important takeaway is that your consumers' needs are changing by the minute. During a crisis, consumer needs actually get erased because I don't know what I want anymore. If we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs during a crisis, I'm really not thinking about your product or your service. As a consumer, I am much more simply thinking about my physiological and safety needs. And that means crisis is a difficult period to do any research within. However, once we emerge from crisis, what happens is we emerge with a certain sense of urgency. Within a company, an organization, a team, that urgency can be really impactful. The question I would have would be, why don't we see opportunity until there's crisis? Legend has it that we can learn a lot from the concept of a boiling frog. 100 years ago, they said if you put a frog into a pot of boiling hot water, it would hop out immediately and be really angry at you for trying to boil it. But if you put that frog into lukewarm water, you could slowly dial up the heat until it croaked. Terrible joke, I get it. But the takeaway from this fable from a long time ago is the simple concept that the frog, like us, doesn't notice a change in temperature if it's moderate. We only notice when there's a crisis. And this explains why from the outside you can tell the trends that are impacting almost any market. From the outside, it's so easy for you or I to see. But on the inside, people don't realize what is disrupting them because it's too easy to assume they already have control.